So I'm so excited to introduce Susy Schiefflen. She's an energy work practitioner and a sobriety coach and a wonderful friend of mine and a sound healer. Susy, what's up?
Hi, Ben. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm so happy to see you. You look just radiant as ever.
Thank you so much. It's so good to see you. Thank you for having me. This is amazing.
Yeah, so I'm so happy that you're here. Mental health awareness is the theme, is the topic, and something that you and I have connected on is the topic of sobriety. We're both meditation teachers. We both do energy work. We're both yogis. Um, but especially I feel like the topic of sobriety, one of my memories of you is that we were at a fabulous cocktail party with celebrities in Century City on the night of a full moon. And I think you and I were maybe the only ones there not drinking.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm thinking right now. I keep seeing, are you noticing this? I'm seeing a lot of people share that they're on their third bottle of wine, that there's a lot of jokes about drinking, a lot of jokes, even about like overeating. And then what I'm finding with my clients is there's a very, it's not jokes. It's actually, there's a real serious challenge in the midst of the pandemic with using.
Yeah.
So are you finding that?
Yeah, it's so real right now. I mean, the thing is, we turn to these substances like alcohol, like drugs, medication, oftentimes because we feel uncomfortable being with ourselves, or we're bored, we don't know what to do with our time, or we're given this big opportunity to pause, we're being invited to stay at home, we're not able to go out and do the things we normally do that keep us distracted, keep us busy, and we sit with ourselves and things start to come up. And sometimes those are things we're not really comfortable feeling, we're not really comfortable looking at. And so it feels safer, feels more comfortable to reach for the glass, the bottle, the multiple bottles of wine, or to reach for the cookie dough, the Cheetos, whatever it may be that, you then take in and it numbs you.
Right.
So I think that's present for so many people right now. It's something that I think at this point in this stage of quarantine, at first it was sort of like, okay, like we're in it, let's, let it all go. And then it's like, okay, this is our new reality. And now it's like, wait a second, maybe I do need to look at this. I don't know if this is actually serving me. People are starting to really reach out for help.
Right. I'm experiencing that too. People are reaching out for help and that's the best place to be, is when someone can actually say, you know what, I've actually crossed a line. I'm overdoing it. In the topic of mental health, look, mental health, what I see is that this is about being able to be with yourself. That's what I think. That's why I think meditation is one of the best things we can do for our mental health.
Absolutely.
And like you said, there's the numbing. There's uncomfortable feelings. Look, something Marianne Williamson teaches in one of her books, Tears to Triumph. There is a concept that she presents where she just basically acknowledges, look, grief is not a mental illness. Depression has something different to it, but genuine heartbreak, genuine concern, life is hard. Life has challenges to it, and things come up. And we don't need to medicate them. We don't need to medicate everything,
Yeah, it's sort of a cliche, but I mean, I really believe it. It's like we have to feel in order to heal. And for me, for so much of my life, I really struggled with negative self-talk, self-judgment. I started losing my hair when I was 7 years old, and the voices, the thoughts inside of my head were so critical and so loud, and there was so much anxiety present for me. It was just like nonstop. It was all I could think about, this noise in my mind. And so I didn't know that, if I were to sit with that and actually meditate and be with those thoughts, allow for them, give them love without judging them or trying to suppress them, they would pass. So what I did personally was I reached outside myself, and alcohol became my solution. And then eventually alcohol wasn't even enough because I felt so much shame from the things that I would say, the things that I would do when I was drinking, which just weren't me, that my anxiety continued to get out of control. So then I needed prescription medications to help me. And that helped me
Mm-hmm.
until it didn't. And I ended up, waking up in the hospital because I was creating this really toxic combination for myself that was basically just trying to quiet my mind. And
Mm.
what meditation has helped me with is learning that, I have thoughts. I'm always going to have thoughts, but I am not my thoughts. We're not our thoughts. I am that which is witnessing the thoughts, that which is experiencing the emotions, the energies in motion of grief, of sadness, of heartache, of, for me, there was so much grief around losing my hair. I was just kept thinking, what's wrong with me? But it wasn't until I let myself actually feel that and I sat with it and I really allowed for those energies to move through me without numbing myself out, that they did move and I was able to heal. And that's not to say that negative self-talk doesn't come up, but now it's like I know that when that happens, it's more important than ever to sit with it, to get on
Right.
the mat, to close my eyes, to breathe, to meditate, and to be so kind. And that's where the healing takes place.
Right. You've said a couple really good things that I want to just like revisit and touch on. Of course, you said what we feel, you can heal, and I think it sounds cliche, but it's cliche. Certain things are cliche because they're so good, Um,
Yeah.
we do need it, and it has nothing to do with. I want to definitely like communicate and articulate that it's there's not a shame associated with the medications,
No.
Um, and I feel like people. I really loved what you said. You said those helped you until they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout the context of this conversation, I just want to like let that be out there where we all have different things that we need to do, and that's a part of a holistic healing repertoire for a number of people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I mean, I had to have that as a part of my journey, and I'm so grateful that I did. And, I would never recommend someone to stop taking their medications. Always consult with your doctor and also take a holistic approach, because that's where the healing will really take place. It's like the medication may get you to a certain point, and also looking at the big picture. What are you eating? Are you moving your body? Are you meditating? Are you breathing? And then allowing yourself to have that holistic healing experience.
Right. And there is something so powerful about the reality of allowing ourselves to be with ourselves. Because even, taking metaphysics out of it, because some people can't go there, but the just really basic biology, when we're resisting something, there's micro tension that builds in the body. We hold our breath when we're resisting things, and so that's what I think is so interesting about yoga. I remember growing up, my mom was doing yoga all the time. She introduced me to yoga, and I also remember. Do you remember that show? Maybe you never watched it, King of the Hill.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, so it was such an obnoxious show, but there was an episode where he like hurt his back. He pulled his back, had some kind of problem, the main character, and Hank Hill, that's what his name was. He ended up going to yoga,
Yeah.
and yoga was the only thing that helped him. And I remember he had one of those really, really unusual kind of culturally really, really different instructors. And he ended up bringing the instructor to court because he was trying to get insurance to pay for his yoga. And he brought the instructor to court, and they were like, this person's crazy. He's not helping your case. And he was like, that's my point. This worked. Why would I want to hang out with this person if the yoga wasn't working, And of course it was really extreme, but I think that's the point that I'm really getting to is that yoga actually does work. So even if the aesthetic of it or the culture around it feels like uncomfortable or new, it really comes down to really being present, tuning in, experiencing your breath, and when it comes to asana and breath work and stuff, we're talking fundamental biological stuff that's good for the body.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And today there's so many different styles and approaches to yoga. And I just love that. Like, if you open yourself up, you can really find a yoga experience that is going to resonate with you. It doesn't have to be that crazy King of the Hill guy. I took an amazing yoga class the other morning with a doctor, and she really understands on the deepest level, like the physiology, like from a doctor's standpoint, and also the energy component of it too. And so I just think, yoga is something that is very accessible to us now more than ever, especially now that we've all gone online. Like, you know, for me, when I was in my darkest time, like I had a lot of shame and didn't want to go to yoga class because I had become super unhealthy. Like my body was physically out of shape. I was like, I'll go to yoga when I like look good in the yoga outfit, you know? And right now it's like, I mean, always everything's online right now, but like, especially in this time of quarantine, like if you're not feeling good about yourself, if you've taken the past 2 months to eat cookie dough and drink wine and you don't necessarily feel good in your Lululemon, like totally get on a yoga class and experience that in the comfort of your home, you know, and know that that's not what yoga is about. It's not about like showing up and looking amazing. Have that experience and see what it feels like, so that when we can go back in the world, like maybe you do want to go out and connect and go to yoga classes and experience it more on an in-person level.
Right, right. And so when it comes to like what we're numbing and the reasons we numb, you know, it's especially when a behavior becomes addictive. There's the, you know, an addictive behavior is something that like, what's the intensity of the dopamine rush that it gives? What's the how quick does that dopamine rush come? How reliable is that dopamine rush, you know? And so when we find those things, like you're mentioning cookie dough, for me, that's really my drug of choice, you know? I don't drink, but I was also raised in like a family that doesn't drink. You know, so the sobriety for me is like kind of like multi-generational, for like more of a spiritual perspective, you know, which is a real gift, I think. But sugar's not against the religion, you know, so for me, cookie dough, ice cream, milkshakes, like I could go on, you know, it's eating. For me, it was really overeating, you know, and the idea of like the dopamine rush, what I had to learn was really through mindful eating, that there's, first of all, you get plenty of nutrients when you're eating healthy foods, and feeling really great actually has a natural dopamine release to it, you know? And so the idea is disengaging from those like really intense, and it takes a while, especially if you're detoxing, but disengaging from those things that give you that false, extreme, intense, quick surge, and allowing yourself to sort of be stabilized. And I think yoga is one of the things that gives, I mean, after a yoga class, you feel amazing.
Yeah.
You
Totally,
know?
you get that natural high. Like you have that natural release of dopamine, of endorphins, of oxytocin, of serotonin, that, you know, it's not in this way that it's super spiking and crashing, which is what happens when you eat a large amount of sugar, you know? And so when we practice yoga, we're also creating neural pathways in our brain to teach ourselves that we can tap into the natural pharmacy in our body by doing these things, by breathing in certain ways, by moving in certain ways. And we don't necessarily have to reach outside ourselves in a way that, you know, maybe we're getting that instantaneous pleasure, that instant moment of comfort and relief, but a few hours later, or a few days, few weeks later, it's actually lowering your vibration and making you feel heavier.
Totally, making you feel less and less good, you know? And it also has the ability to, you know, these addictive behaviors, they all sort of have similar responses where they'll fry out different neurons, and you know, I'm not a neuroscientist, but they basically require you to increase your dose in order to reach that same level of high. And the same is really true about this is something that's been coming up a lot too with my clients, with porn. You know, it's a little more taboo because you know, because there's so much interest in like non-judgment and everything, and I'm all about non-judgment. It's not a judgment. We when we can tell that something is unhealthy, it's not a judgment. You know, and there's so much compassion, I think, that's available to people when we recognize that the reason you're reaching for something is because you need something, is because because you need love, you need compassion, you need connection, you know. One of my favorite quotes about sobriety is, the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's connection.
Yes, I love that. Did you see, I think there was a TED Talk, was that it?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
It's so good, and it's so true, because when you feel connection with other people, and most importantly with yourself, then you don't need to reach outside yourself. You know, you can really feel that, knowing that like, I am whole, I am enough, I am an infinite being. And I mean, I know that that's why oftentimes when we get on the spiritual path, alcohol no longer really works with that anymore, because you become connected to something greater than yourself and recognize that that's within you. And by the way, I didn't say congratulations on your book. Oh my gosh, congratulations. So exciting. And so beautifully timed. Oh.
Yeah, what a gift, you know. I mean, I have to say, like, as you know, as like a self-awareness practitioner, there's like this whole process where I'm so in it. I'm like in book launch phase, and it's like, wow, I'm like stressed. I'm like experiencing like anxiety, you know, and you know, when you release something like that, you know, as you know, when you're putting your work out into the world in different ways, your heart's in it, and the quality's not always exactly how you envisioned it, and you know, this detail and that detail, and you know, and it's so humbling. You're like, okay, this is what's coming through right now. This is what it is right now. That's what I said, you know. And I'm finding, for me, I all my worthiness issues are coming up. Like it's like am I lovable? Am I good enough? You know, and it's like, you know, I've been, as much as I am so grateful for the book, you know, and happy about it, and really happy with it, you know. Some things that are happening with the publisher, I'm like, hi, I'm the author of this book. Do I matter at all? Do you guys care that I exist at all? You know? You know, and it's like one of those things where it's like, wow, okay, you got to just keep coming back to, it's like a mantra. You come back to the present, come back to the present, come back to the present, you know?
Totally. Oh, I hear you. And it's interesting, like everything you said, I feel like so many people are feeling that way right now, not necessarily in relation to a book launch, but right now feeling like, oh, am I good enough? Like, this isn't how I wanted it to be. Like, I feel disappointed about this, or I feel, you know, uncomfortable about that. And these feelings that we may not have felt previously are being revealed to us during this time of quarantine, this pause. And the quote from the Bible that comes through, that's been coming through so strongly to me, like especially this week, is just be still and know that I am God.
Be still. That's so good. Yeah. That's
right?
it's like all good.
Yeah, like it's all good. It's all God. Like it's all divine, you know, and we don't necessarily know why, and the mind will come up these reasons why I wish it was this way, I wish it was that way. But if we can really take that step back and be still and just say, okay, God, okay, I accept this, you know, and I'm going to see the beauty and the perfection in all of it.
Totally. Yeah. And there is like interaction and co-creation that takes place, you know. It's like sometimes the way we communicate, you know, I don't want to be too passive, you know. I think like as a meditation practitioner, there's that be still and know, you know, and it's like you come back to that, and it's like, wait a second, all this stuff happened while I was still. Okay. You know, and it's like you have to integrate that mindfulness into how you interact, you know, and that's what I'm really learning right now. I'm learning that humility with strength, you know, and to say like, look, we've got to keep integrity in this, you know. I don't feel like there's integrity in this part of the process or in this part of the process. Like, I don't really like how this is playing out, you know, and learning to communicate in that. And I can feel myself, you know, the last couple days I've been like more regimented about my practice and about my meal plan and all of that. And I can feel myself wanting to go for the cookie dough, you know, and it's like, I just want some cookie dough, you know?
Yes.
But
I hear you.
But it is the reality of like, you know what? I can actually take care of myself without the cookie dough right now. You know, I can do this, you know, and there are, you know, it comes down to our relationship to ourselves, you know, and our relationship to what we see in ourselves, what we're willing to do, what we're, you know. And so like you said something really, you shared about losing your hair when you were young. And I even know I don't know how open you were about it or whatever over the last couple of years, but I remember seeing you cut your hair, because every time I saw you, you had like this beautiful blonde hair, and I was like, damn, that's a really blonde, that's like blonde, you know? And and I remember seeing your post on Instagram when you cut it all off, and I was just like, wow. I could just feel like the liberation. There was a liberation, you know?
Totally.
And I was blessed by it. I want to hear like more about that.
Thank you. Yeah, liberation is the exact perfect word. When I decided to shave my head, it was because I had gotten the awareness that I had been living as a prisoner. Like I truly had created a prison for myself where for most of my life, like I would experience a bald spot, and I was so embarrassed. I was so ashamed as a woman. You know, having hair can be such a big part of your identity. I have 3 sisters, and we were all known as the 4 blonde Schiefflen girls. So it was like a big part of not just my identity, but my family's identity. And then once I got on the path of being a holistic healer, I stopped getting injections of steroids in my scalp, which was the treatment. And my hair started to fall out very quickly. And the shame was real, and I was doing a lot of work around it internally, but I wasn't ready to really speak out about it yet. So I started wearing a wig, which is why I had such perfect blonde hair, because it literally was. Like, I have the most amazing wigs. It was so much fun in many ways. And it also was really like this cover, you know, this mask of still hiding like what was truly going on, and all the while doing work on myself internally and wondering like, what's wrong with me? And I looked at my diet, I looked at my exercise, I of course have a great meditation and yoga practice, and I did everything that I could to bring myself into peak physical condition, and yet my hair continued to fall out. And I kept asking myself, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And one day the message just came through so clearly that was like, Susie, nothing's wrong with you. Like, if this is how God, the universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it, wants you to be, why are you resisting that? Like, what's the resistance about? You know, I was causing myself suffering to the extent where, like, I had a convertible. I didn't want to drive with the top down because I didn't want the wind to blow my hair. I lived by the beach. I didn't want to go swimming in the ocean because I didn't want people to see the bald spots. Like, it was constantly on my mind, and I become this prisoner. And so I started to speak out about wearing a wig, and then eventually I just said, what am I hiding? Why am I hiding the way that I was born to be? So I shaved off the rest of it, and I mean, at this point, I still have a couple of bald spots, but like, I don't know if I'll grow it back. I don't know if it will ever grow back in, but I just feel such a sense of peace and a sense of self-love and self-acceptance that like I'd been resisting without meaning to my whole life. I'd just been like trying to change myself rather than accepting myself, and it caused me to go down a path of so much suffering. Like as I shared, like ended up turning to drinking, ended up turning to taking drugs in order to try to feel better and numb out the pain that I felt. But once I got rid of all of that and just stepped into this path of self-love and acceptance and sat with who I'm really meant to be, it was the greatest liberation.
So did you go to like traditional talk therapy, like CBT or?
Oh yeah, I did. I've done talk therapy for most of my life. I think therapy is such an important
therapy.
tool. Oh my God. I haven't been in therapy for the past few months. Well, actually for almost a year now. I did, what's the one with the alternate sides of why am I spacing on it?
ESMR.
Yes, I did that last summer. It was amazing. And then I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm going to integrate this. And I just reached out to my old therapist today, and I was like, you know what? I could really use a little check-in. So I'm getting back in touch with my therapist now. Not for that, of CBT. And I've done DBT. I mean, are you there?
Yeah.
I have low battery. I think therapy is such an amazing tool. You know, to have a third party who can really reflect back to you and help you process is just so important for wherever you're at.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, well, I'm so grateful for all of your time, and I'm so grateful for like what you shared and your honesty about what your personal journey has been like, because I think when people see you, you know, they follow you on Instagram, the Copper Vessel, when we go see you, you have a gorgeous Instagram account, and you're beautiful, you know, even without your hair, you're gorgeous, you know, and everything is so delicate and so highly curated and beautiful and refined and really intentional, and, that you do and that you create. And anyone who's taking your classes knows that you're just really, really thoughtful and lovely and have great, great energy, and so beautiful. And so throughout that whole reality, it's like so powerful to know that you are just like everyone else. You've been through, you're actually a success story, you know, you're a story of triumph, you know. It's you know, we're all blessed and privileged in different ways, and certainly you are, and myself included, you know. But it's really, really grateful. I'm so grateful to hear your honesty and the truth of your challenges, you know. And if there was one tip or one thought or something to provide people, you know, in the midst of this present moment where we are in a pandemic, where there are collective experiences that we're experiencing, what might that be?
Stay connected. Reach out. If you are struggling, know that you are not alone. Know that people are there, ready, willing, and able to hold you, to support you, and help guide you on your journey. I could not be where I am today if it weren't for an amazing team that is an ongoing team. You know, like I said, like I just reached back out to my therapist. I'm like, okay, let's do a check-in. Like, was feeling like not great in my body recently. Like, okay, I'm going to start working out with a trainer. Like things like that, you know. And then, I mean, if it comes to drinking, like if you're struggling with alcoholism, if you're struggling with not being able to go without consuming food, or, I mean, of course we need to eat food, but using food as a coping mechanism, reach out. You know, I work with so many people around sobriety and anxiety and these things that can feel oftentimes shameful and like we're the only one going through it, but you are certainly not, and you can get through it, and a life of freedom is possible. So
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Happy Mental Health Awareness Month.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for doing this. It's so important. Opening up this conversation is just, I mean, it's everything. We really need to talk about these things, and it's a joy and an honor to be with you. I love you. I adore you. I miss seeing you and teaching back to back, and look forward to giving you a hug one day soon and to experiencing your exciting new book. Congratulations again.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for all the work that you do in the world. I can tell you really put a lot of energy into it. And I've always just loved what you offer and what you have to say. And thank you so much for coming on and talking about your practice and your experience and sobriety and giving us those lovely tips. So thank you so much.
Thank you. If anyone's watching this and I can support you, the Copper Vessel, reach out, here for you. Sending you all so much love.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon, Susie. Bye, everybody.
Bye.